म्यूचुअल फंड सही तो है, but कौन सा म्यूचुअल फंड सही है? Like most retail investors, you too might have faced this problem of indecision at some point in time, and if you have, this video is perfect for you. Last week, ETMONEY unveiled a unique fund report card which is aimed at vastly improving your fund selection process. It does this by giving investors the right signals, the right indicators to help them make better investment choices. In this video, we shall detail out the inner workings of this report card and why this feature is possibly the most comprehensive way to evaluate mutual funds in India. So here's how it works. The fund report card focuses on the two most important things that every investor, including you and me, looks for, which is A, to earn good returns, and B, to take a proportionately lower amount of risk. These return and risk desires are then converted into two prime characteristics, which are the scheme's performance quality and the scheme's downside protection. And it is this understanding of the performance quality and downside protection that then gets compressed into an all-encompassing ETMONEY rank, which helps investors zero down on the right funds. We'll learn more about each of these in this video, including how you can make the best use of the report card and quickly shortlist a set of funds for your next investment. Returns are an important part of every evaluation process. And as we have explained earlier on this YouTube channel, merely picking last year's best performing scheme often translates to a less than ideal result. In fact, just looking at returns without understanding the risks that were taken to generate those returns is what gets missed by most investors, which is why we went ahead and defined performance quality in a more broader framework that assesses the returns and the risks of each mutual fund. So how do we arrive at performance quality? Well, firstly, we assess if the fund generated returns in a consistent manner and whether these returns were over the fund's benchmark, which is the entire point of investing in actively managed funds. More specifically, this consistency is derived from a statistical measure called the information ratio. Once done, we map the fund's consistency on a 5-point scale wherein a higher rating is conferred to the more consistent fund. The second element to performance quality is to assess if the fund offers a higher incremental return for every additional unit of risk it takes up. Since we invest in an actively managed fund to earn a return higher than that of a fixed deposit, it is important that every risk taken is justified over the long run, and that is why we measure the risk part of performance quality using the Sharpe ratio of the fund. So to put this together, when the ETMONEY Fund Report Card looks at performance quality, it's really trying to balance out three essential elements: the returns, the risk, and the consistency of returns. And once we have the scores of the individual parts, our system then converts it into a super simple 5-point rating structure that can be easily understood and used by investors in their mutual fund decisioning process. In football, there is an old saying that goes something like, "The forwards will win you games, but it is the defenders that will win you titles." So while performance will take you closer to your financial goals, a perfect fund is one that also defends its position. A fund's downside protection can be evaluated by examining two characteristics. The first one is the fund's ability to control losses during market corrections. Logically, this makes perfect sense because everyone wants to beat the market returns not just on the upside or the gains of it, but also want their funds to fall a lot lower than the market drop. We measure this using the Sortino ratio, and as expected, higher a fund's Sortino ratio, the better is its ability to control the losses. The second characteristic within downside protection is the fund's ability to deliver returns without frequent ups and downs. Most investors dislike volatility, and while we can't remove it, we can always find a fund that is less volatile than the others. We measure volatility with the fund's standard deviation, and in doing so, funds with a lower standard deviation receive better scores as they exhibit stable and predictable returns. Net, much like performance quality, downside protection is also displayed on a 5-point scale on the ETMoney platform and is a very important decisioning rule for all investors to consider. The third part of the fund report card is our ranking feature, which is available on the ETMoney app and is presently used by lakhs of investors. In this section, we shall understand how we rank the funds, that is, the parameters that we use to decide the ranks, the eligibility criteria, and a few good to know aspects of our ranking system. Let's start with the parameters, which are the building blocks of this exercise. The ETMoney ranking system uses a total of 9 different return and risk parameters. These 9 parameters are then applied in different permutations and combinations depending on the category that is being evaluated. For instance, when evaluating schemes in the equity segment, we use a combination of parameters which include the information ratio, the standard deviation, the Sortino ratio, the Sharpe ratio, the sector concentration in a scheme, and also the company concentration within a scheme. Once we have these parameters, the next task is to append a weight to each of them. Like in the case of equity funds, a larger grouping of weights as high as 75% is given to those parameters that reflect the fund's risk-adjusted returns. More specifically, the 75% weight is split in different proportions of the information, Sharpe, and Sortino ratios, and the rest 25% of the weights reflects the downside protection and the risk management capabilities of the fund, which is done by measuring the concentration risks in the equity portfolios. So come to think of it, the reason we assign a larger weight to the risk-adjusted return parameters is to align the ranks with the category objective, which in the case of equities is to deliver an outperformance over the defined benchmarks. However, this approach does not stand ground when it comes to debt fund categories. In fact, in the case of debt schemes, our ranking philosophy is more centered around the principle of return of capital rather than the return on capital. Another consideration when ranking debt funds was to keep our methodology aligned with SEBI's tight definition of debt categories, which practically lists down what a liquid or ultra short-term fund is, what kind of credit quality a corporate debt fund can have, etc. As a consequence, ETMoney's debt category rankings give almost equal weightage to performance quality and downside protection, which is in addition to essential parameters like yield to maturity, modified duration, and credit quality. Alright, now that we have the parameters and weights, it's time to rank the schemes. The ranking process is initiated by giving a sub-rank of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for each parameter, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. So for a parameter like returns, higher the returns, the better will be the rank. And for something like standard deviation, concentration risk, or modified duration, the lower it is, the better is the rank. This ranking is done over a distribution curve with the top 10 percentile of schemes getting 5 points, the next 22.5 percentile getting 4 points, the next 35% with 3 points, and the bottom 22.5 and 10 percentile receiving 2 and 1 points respectively. Once each parameter is scored, these are then multiplied against the weights, which then gives us the final score per scheme. We then compile the final scores of all schemes within a category and rank them on a descending order basis, with the highest score receiving a rank of 1, the next best receiving a rank of 2, and so on. And that's how the ETMoney ranks are computed for hundreds of funds on our platform. Having said this, it's possible, and this is more of an exception, that you might come across some schemes or categories where an ETMoney rank is not available. And this non-availability is largely on account of some essential qualifiers we have applied to keep the rankings extremely relevant and meaningful. For instance, in the case of the equity and hybrid categories, we qualify only those funds which have been in existence for at least 36 months, and in case of debt funds, this tenure varies between 12 and 18 months depending upon the category. Our ranking methodology also requires that the category in which the scheme lies should have a minimum of 5 schemes to be eligible for a rank. A good example of this would be the floating rate funds category, which presently does not have 5 schemes and hence has been excluded from the rankings. Additionally, ETMoney also excludes international funds and sector or thematic funds like pharma, FMCG, infrastructure funds, etc. from the ranking process. The reason for not having a rank in these cases is more to do with the lack of relevant data or the non-standardized nature of the category itself. For instance, we don't rate international funds as all schemes in this category are distinctively different from each other in terms of their structure, holdings, strategies, and even the geography. In fact, do recall we had done an excellent feature on international funds on the ETMoney YouTube channel and had specifically created a downloadable Excel worksheet to help viewers and investors understand the complexity surrounding this fund category. But having said this, there is a lot to go around, and the ETMoney rank covers and features all major fund categories and the top schemes in the equity, debt and hybrid categories. So the next time you're confused or clueless on which mutual fund to select, here's what I want you to do. 1. Open your ETMoney app. 2. Go inside a specific fund category, let's say mid-cap funds. 3. Tap on the sorting button and sort on the basis of the ETMoney rank, and that's it. You now have a handful of filtered schemes that you can go deeper into and analyze other aspects of it using the ETMoney Fund Report Card, which will then help you make a more informed decision. And with this, we come to the end of this video. We sincerely hope you will take the fullest benefit of the ETMoney Fund Report Card, which we are certain will hugely complement your mutual fund selection process. So do give it a shot, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends and family. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to catching up with you next week with another insightful video. Until then.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.